The confluence of Central Asian republics that stretch from Russia to China and Afghanistan offers some of the most intricate and fragile structures of political maneuvering of the 21st century. And as the political theory of the Great Game culminates, a geopolitical ecology formulates atop a competition of regional domination and intrigue amongst the globe's largest political entities, the US, NATO, China, and Russia. Although the importance of Central Asia had been known by Russia and China for centuries, it required a monumental crisis in the West to shed light on its strategically essential location as a junction between powerful states and non-state actors. 9/11. As Alexander Vinnikov states in his literature piece that, although most Central Asian states joined NATO's Partnership for Peace program in the mid-1990s, it was not until after September 11, 2001, and the ensuing operations in Afghanistan that Central Asia emerged on the radar of NATO capitals as a region of strategic importance. The terrorist insurgencies of the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and later ISIS that festered in the relative misrule of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Middle East posed serious security concerns not only amongst NATO members, but also had severe destabilizing effects on many of the Central Asian countries. Both had suffered from the severe and pervasive consequences of terrorist attacks, and thus the beginning of NATO and Central Asian cooperation truly began. However, following its two-decade military operation in Afghanistan in 2021, NATO had in many ways left the Central Asian republics to independently provide their own regional and domestic security needs. NATO had effectively failed to defeat the Taliban and democratize Afghanistan, forcing the Central Asian countries to reapproach their foreign policy and pivot away from the alliance as a tenable partner as distrust grew. The consequences of the US and NATO's decision to withdraw from Afghanistan left many Central Asian countries, already well within the spheres of influence of China and Russia, prone to plunging even deeper into their orbits to seek favorable security conditions and guarantees. Although the NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan strained bilateral relationships with Central Asia, they both had an awareness of the dangers posed by Chinese and Russian expansionism, and for another reason, Central Asia became an economically and militarily important location in geopolitics. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has serious security implications on the self-perception of the Central Asian countries and their relationship with Russia. The invasion has induced a sense of security vulnerability that has never really been present amongst the Central Asian states. Because of this, NATO and China may see themselves as strong strategic counterbalances to Russia's perceived pugnacity. For instance, the Kazakh military budget, because of the Russian invasion, insecurities in Afghanistan, and political unrest, has increased by 50%. China's facilitation of economic development in the region is also cause for concern for the Central Asian countries. Similar to the case of Russia, worries that Chinese influence over domestic and international decision-making, coupled with their creeping militarization, may produce Central Asian countries to skillfully maneuver themselves towards NATO and Russia to counterbalance China. Because of the rather delicate relationship between the triad of Russia, Central Asia, and China, NATO's strategy still have potential to reinsert itself as a dominant and influential actor in the region, and to also reestablish stronger ties with Central Asia. Beyond the importance of Central Asia to NATO's war on terrorism before 2021, Central Asia is strategic for its vast energy and resource procurement. The security vulnerabilities posed by Europe's strong dependency on Russian gas is motivation for a more pronounced NATO presence in Central Asia's energy sectors, with its obvious goal of not only sourcing new relationships and resources, but also to curtail Russia's leverage over the international energy market. NATO stands in a unique position in which it can meet the needs of Central Asian security by counterbalancing the influence of both China and Russia. It is imperative to consider that NATO stands as an institution that is developed in the Western liberal order, that the tendencies of NATO to enforce democratic ideals would be seen as a mistake when trying to obtain more influence in the region. Post-Soviet republics might calculate that the liberal order may be more of a threat to the relatively autocratic regimes, traditional societies, domestic authority, and regime survivability than the security uncertainties posed by Russia and China. In this context, NATO should mindfully engage with the Central Asian countries regardless of their political ideologies. To not do this could have unintended consequences that may push the Central Asian countries back into Chinese and Russian domains. The Central Asian nations are increasingly realizing that the security provided by their patrons comes at the cost of compromising their sovereignties. leaving them with limited national and even less intra-regional influence. Moreover, these republics acknowledge the potential for insecurity arising from the expansionist policies of their patrons, specifically Russia and China within Central Asia. The existing security cooperation mechanisms, orchestrated and dominated by external powers, are viewed skeptically by Central Asia and contribute to the erosion of the regional security order, despite their primary aim of securing militarily vulnerable republics. Addressing this insecurity necessitates sustained collaboration on both security and economic fronts within the region.